You take the request, I'll work it out how we do it.
It's like we're at Ibiza. All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming to this titled Fusion. Titled Fusion Foo. And the idea behind this is that I talked to Michael to get some help with this because I wanted to. We have this warp core dome system thing that we've created that has blank cells, and the idea is that builders can use the blank cells to make their own things, to snap onto it. So what we wanted to do today was to pull an empty plate that I have in the STL file that you can pull down and modify it. Kind of just do some things to it so you can see how we can take this STL, flip it to a mesh, flip it to a sketch, create a body, and then start building things onto the plate. So the idea is to replicate something simple and then take questions and some other things that whatever Michael comes up with, because he is the Fusion Foo master. We're going to make this cup holder, basically, which is holding a toy warp core in it. So you can see how you would extrude that onto the blank plate and put magnets on it and lock it on a core plate, on a base plate. So that was the idea. So hopefully you enjoy this and you learn something from it and you go home and make some cool stuff and slap it on a plate. So we're going to start with what we did is we jumped into the warp core baseplate STL file. That is on the baseplate run thread, and it's a free download. Just jump into it, download the STL file. It's got all the STLs that I've created that fit on the core, and it has some blank ones too. And so grab a blank one if you want to create, and then slap it into Fusion. And then after you do that, it's going to come in as a mesh, and then we're going to modify it on there. So Michael, you want to walk through how you're meshing?
Yep. So everybody know the difference between a mesh and a solid body? No, brilliant, fantastic. So the files that we print are meshes, and all the mesh really is a bunch of triangles. So you can kind of see on here, if you zoom in, you can see all these little lines, and what it's done is it's created an object that's just made out of triangles. The problem with meshes is because they've not got each surface defined. They are a bunch of triangles. Editing them in Fusion is nearly impossible. However, what you can do is convert a mesh into something that you can edit. And so that's what we're just going to do now. So in the Fusion workspace, if you click on mesh, that's where all your tools are for meshes. You can import your STL file. These are any print files from anybody. And if you click on modify and convert mesh, it will allow you to select the mesh, and you can just leave these as default, hit OK. And what it does, you can see the little symbol has changed there from mesh to a solid body. So once you've done that, this becomes an editable form. It's not the best way of doing things. The best way is to get the actual source files. But if you wanted to just quickly add holes to something, you wanted to model stuff on existing STL files, it's a really quick way of actually doing, being able to just do very simple edits. Now, what it does do is it retains all the triangles. So you can see the triangles are on here. You can then, if you want to, start to model on this body. Or if you really want to, you can use this then to recreate the solid body. So I'm just quickly going to show you both versions. So this is the one that I've just converted. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to project this onto the sketch surface. So if I click create project, so I'm going to project the whole body onto this surface. And what that does, if I hide the bodies now, is it will create me a sketch, which is an outline of that particular body, which I can then use if I want to, which I'll do. I'm going to fly through this quickly, and then I'll talk about what we've done. I'm just going to pull it out 3 millimeters, and that will create a new body. There we go. And I'll show you what's actually happened there. Just move that on the side. Okay. So the workflow that I followed on that was that we imported a mesh. You can't do anything with a mesh. We converted the mesh into a solid body, and then I projected to create a sketch and extruded that sketch 3 millimeters out to give us a clean surface. Did any of that make sense? No.
Yes.
Yes. Take it as yes. It depends how far we go back, because I mean, within Fusion 360, if you're really starting off with Fusion 360, we start off with bodies, which are solid objects like this, and we start off with sketches, which are drawings that create solid bodies. And so I'll show you a little bit more on that modeling, what we use sketches for and how we extrude them into solid bodies. This particular workflow is if we're using one of Doug's STL files, made up of little triangles, and convert it into a body. So at this point now, what we've effectively got is we've got a blank version of this to play with in the Fusion 360 space. What I'll do quickly now is take you through this little cup that we've got modeled on there and show you how we'll do that. And as you can see, this is a hollow cup and it extrudes out slightly angled. So if I could.
So also in the file folder, there should be an object file that is not an STL that will take you straight to the object that you can add onto to do things. What I wanted to do with the STL today is I haven't got object files on all the things that I've done. So I've got a lot of STLs in there. And like if you've got the smoker cell or something and you want to put a hole in a wall or something to be able to zip tie something to it, because I mean, if you look at what I've done, some of my stuff is literally zip tied together. This helps you just kind of do that, like put a small hole in there so you don't have to take your soldering iron and ram it through. You could do that too, by the way, to make a hole, which I have done many times. But being able to model onto the STL with small holes and small things was the main point. So yes, let's create a cup holder with our new body.
Okay. So when we're creating a body, the first thing we're going to do is move into the sketch environment. So across the top here, you've got a number of things that you can select: solid surface, all these elements down there. If you want to go into the sketch environment, all we do is I press L, which is drawing a line, or a C, which draws a circle. And what that'll do is, as you can see here, this moves into this sketch environment. Alternatively, if we just finish sketch, we then brings up all of these tools across here. So first thing I'm going to do is attempt to model this cup. To do that, I'm going to use a circle. And across these tool sets here for drawing, we can draw a circle diameter there. So we'll put that somewhere in the middle of the cup. And I think you said it was 75, 70, 75. So you can type in the diameter of that and it'll draw you a circle of 75. If you want to, you can move that circle around. So it does give you the flexibility of kind of editing, shifting things around, decide exactly where you want your cup holder. If you want to kind of measure it exactly, you can hover it, which I would do, hover it along the center, pull it back down, and pull it out 75. And then I'll do an inner piece. You said 65? Go to 70. So, yeah. So what that gives us then is it gives us that wall of the two cups. Once you've created a sketch, if you finish a sketch, you can now start to select various spaces. The ones that color in is ultimately the solid that you create. So because we've created this thin wall, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that up. How high would you like it, Doug? We could do it about 50. So 50. And obviously, what you'd probably do is get a tape measure, or you'd get a micrometer. You'd measure the object that you want to put in there to get the dimensions. So if you do 50, you've now added that cup space to the base. You'll see that it's at the moment kind of going straight up. So there's lots of different tools within Fusion. The one I'll just show you, which will give us that bit of a chamfer on the cup, is something called draft. So what draft lets us do is if we highlight this base plate here, this gives us a point of reference, and then we can click on that wall, and you'll see it gives us this tool. And what this tool lets us do is lets us stretch it out like that to whichever angle that you want for your cup. So we're going to do this at 10 degrees, like that. And what that does then is it kind of gives you that chamfer out. Now, if you look down, you'll see that the wall on the inside is still going up at 90 degree up, whereas this wall's gone out a further 10 degrees. So you just do the same thing again, modify and draft, and you can pull the -10. You can pull that one out at 10 degrees, and that effectively then will give you your replication of what you've got there, which is on the cup.
Yeah. So the thing about Fusion that I discovered is I'm self-taught with this, and I've got all kinds of bad habits, right? Because I watched a lot of tutorials from Eagle and Fusion 360. They have those online for Autodesk. Michael has a great tutorial. He's going to talk about here in a second around the drafting, creating off a sketch, off a drawing, and creating a gonk that he did with his thing. I learned a lot from that video. It was great. How to make a gonk out of a 2D image. It was really cool. And so what I've taken, the idea is that you have these solid surfaces and you can actually draw on them and extrude those drawings to bring them up. Like a simple rectangle, you would draw a rectangle, you would bring it up, extrude it 20 millimeters. Now you've got a wall. And that rectangle could be, a 5 millimeter by 30 millimeter. And you've got a wall there that you can put a hole through and make more mounts. So the reason I wanted to take time today to talk about this is because modifying the plates and that kind of thing, it's not difficult to do if you take some time with simple shapes on it. And then like doing what he did actually to make this cup, we were just doing that before, and I've never used that feature to make the cup before. I was making 2 circles and doing it extremely hard because I got the mount. I'm like, well, I'll flare it out. I was just like an orbit. I was using an orbit command to go around the cylinder and change it. And he just showed me how to do that a lot faster on it. So I learned something of that. So go ahead.
Yeah. So show hands. Who's got a 3D printer? Oh, you beautiful people. Brilliant. Okay. Who's got a active version of Fusion, whether it's a preview or okay. And who's designed stuff for their own droids out using Fusion? So, okay. Who's designed stuff for the house using Fusion? You see, this is shocking. Most of my house has 3D printed stuff on it all over. Recently, and you don't think this way, and I'll get to the reason in a minute, but I got some guttering on the shed, which captures water when it rains. It rains in the UK, not like over here. And so, but to get this guttering on the shed, it needed a specific bracket, which wasn't a normal bracket. And so I ended up sitting on the internet for a long time at night trying to find these brackets. And then you slap yourself in the face and say, oh my God, you're a CAD designer. You've got 3D printers and you're looking for this bracket. You're an idiot. So I went outside with a piece of paper. I ripped the piece of paper around the angle of the guttering. And then I got a pair of scissors and did a terrible, terrible template. And I brought it back in and made the guttering angle. And I've done the same for a whole bunch of things at home. So where you put your hand up and said you've got a 3D printer, that's brilliant. You can do this. The next part then is, have you got Fusion? Fusion 360 is available free. There are hobbyist versions of it. You've got to renew it. But all the stuff that I'm showing you here is kind of Fusion 101. So you can get the software. So you can get the software, you've got the 3D printer. It means you can start making your own guttering brackets at home. How exciting is this? Yeah. No, but then the next bit is, okay, you've got it. How do you drive it? Okay. So what I'm going to do now is very, very quickly show you some. I just chose a guttering bracket because I've done it recently. I'll show you how I would do that. So again, we've we started off by showing you what a lot of people do with us trying to get a existing design and they want to cut holes in it. Starting something from scratch like a guttering is really, really simple. So the first thing to do is to go into the sketch environment. As I said, I always just press L because L is a line in Sketch. And then what you do with that sketch is you choose a flat surface that you want to draw the line onto. So we'll choose, so now I can draw anything that I want, really. That's the shape of my guttering, that, Doug. That's how we roll in the north. No. So you've got a bunch of tools, and there's something called the three-point arc, which is you choose 2 points, and you pull it down, and it gives you kind of a bit of a bend. I can modify offset, and the best thing to do with Fusion is just to play with these tools. So I'm gonna guess that for it to be strong enough in 3D printed material to hold my guttering, 20 millimeters will be thick enough, like that. So now I've got 20 millimeters that this matches kind of where my guttering is. I'll draw a line across there to say that's the kind of profile. And then this weird angle that I want for my shed is going to be there. It then cuts across because I'm moving it a little bit from the wall. And then what I want to do is do a bracket. I'm going to do that about 20 mil. Just go like that. Up to there. Back to there. Actually, follow that line, please. Thank you. And then I'm going to click tick. So all I've done there is created a very quick and easy guttering bracket. It might not be strong enough. So do you know what? I'm going to just put a little support thing in there and finish. So, and what I can do from that, so that support line was rubbish because it wasn't overlapping. I'll just redo that. Let's try that. There we go. Finish. So, as a sketch, those of you that haven't drawn anything, did that look relatively easy? Well, yeah, I think we can probably do that. So, and then all I'm doing is I'm selecting these profiles. I right click and click press and pull, or I create an extrude. And what I do then is that's my bracket that I need for my guttering, and it'll hold it just at the right kind of space. And then what I want to do then is make it so that I can fit it to the wall. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a 5mm hole there, because I know that most of the self-tapping screws that I use to screw things to walls will need a 5mm hole. And I'm going to put one in the middle of here as well, because I like to have 2 holes to support something. And I'm just going to hide the body so I can select these in a minute. So all I'm going to do with these 2 holes, I'm just going to use them to drill into my guttering. So let's pull that. Press and pull. As I pull it, it will automatically select and say, I know you're trying to pull through something, so I'm going to make a hole. I want it, it's not going the other way, so what I'm going to do is change direction to say it's symmetrical. And what that will actually do is it will create 2 holes for my guttering. And then what I'll do is I'll chamfer both of those by about 4 mil. Not 4 mils right now. There we go. Let's chamfer them out a little bit like that. So I like to use self-tapping screws. And what I've got then is I've got this thing that I can use for the house. Put a screw through there, put a screw through there. Once I've 3D printed out, that will effectively give me my bracket that holds my guttering. Did that look complicated? Yes. So the most complicated part of that is doing the sketches, and it's learning to use some of the basic tools that sit around sketches. As I said, go into the sketch environment. You've got a bunch of different tools here. You can draw things. The other things, I will get requests off some people that say, do you know what? Can you do me a washer that's 30mm wide, that's 3mm deep with a 10mm hole in it? you know, so I can print it out. And literally, these are the sort of things that you can do. You do a 30mm washer, 10mm hole, and you want it 3mm thick, and then your washer's there. So let that, it's literally that simple. I know I'm going through these quite quickly, but the bit that I would really encourage you to do is play around in a sketch environment, sketch some really basic shapes and extrude it. Because when you then start to learn how to do some of the basic shapes, you can then start to build a lot more complex objects like the guttering brackets, or like the stuff that that Doug's mentioned around the cups. Another brilliant feature on Fusion that I will just show you just as a little bit of a taster, because we all want to model things from either images from screens or blueprints, is there's a really clever way of giving you that any image that you've got as something to sketch on. So I'll just quickly show you that in Fusion you can insert a canvas. And what a canvas is, it's an image. And the one that I'll do is one that hopefully we're familiar with, which is a coin slots. Just insert the coin slots as an image. There we go. Anybody recognize these? Yeah, good. Okay. So these are the normal R2 coin slots. So any image that you've got that's got the blueprints, you can import straight into Fusion and use them to draw those sketches on. So you're not having to look at a blueprint and guess where they are. You can have it on the screen. What we don't know at the moment is whether these particular dimensions that sit in here are accurate. And also, I have to change it to your weird measurement system from millimeters to inches. There we go. Right, so this is in inches ounce mass. I don't know what that means, but all of these dimensions on in inches. Now, within Fusion, when you do actually bring in an image, a little known feature, if you right click on it, is the Calibrate. So if you calibrate an image, it asks you to draw 2 dots, okay? And it's 2 dots between a known point. So if you've grabbed a screen capture of something that you want to build, you've got to estimate how tall it is. In this case, we know that the stack height from the bottom of that coin slot to the top of that coin slot is 4.423 inches. That's a known measurement. So what Calibrate does is it allows you to put a dot at the top of there, like that. Yeah, I made that noise, couldn't it?
I'm just glad your mind's out of the gutter.
What's that? I know. That's.
I was waiting for that.
One down there like that. And you'll see a number comes up there, 4.83 inches. That's the current size of that sketch. So if I put 4.423 and I hit go, now every aspect of this blueprint is the correct dimensions. So if I wanted to do a very rough and ready coin slots for us to model, I could literally go in, select the middle of there, go right the way down, and just draw on it. And literally, you can do a very rough version of the coin slots, or just using the background as an image, and it will fit. I mean, because the tolerances when you zoomed into this are pretty good, like that. And likewise, if you wanted to, I'll do it very quickly. I can create a Recce pattern. This is me working at super speed. All I've done is taken that little profile. I'm going to make 6 of them because I believe there's 6 in droids from what I recall. Click OK. And now what I've got is I've got one profile of the coin slots that I know are accurate and solid. So I can pull those out. I pull them out long like that. So that gives me one profile. Then what I can do is I can move the bodies in space, so I could just move these across to here. Actually, I want to get it so it fits on that top picture, which means I want it spinning about 90 degrees around. Just drag it around a little bit like that. I feel like Bob Ross at the moment. We'll do it that way, like that.
Happy little droid parts. Yeah.
Parts. Exactly. There we go. So I've got it to the same kind of profile as the second one that I'm going to do. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag it up to there. There we go. Move that to like that. Click OK. So now that's in that same sort of space. It's not the right size, so I'm going to chop it by drawing. Just draw around these little chop lines here. There to about there. Bring it out to there, like that. And then join those two dots there. Finish, and then what I'm going to do is modify split body. I'll just chop that with that little line that we've done. There we go. And then I might just delete that one. It's going to complain because I've got timeline. Remove. There we go. And then if I wanted to, I can just repeat this on the other side. And because we've scaled this drawing to it being accurate to blueprint, we know that these are going to work. Modify, cancel, modify split body with that little line there, and then modify split. There's a bit I just want to keep, the end bit there like that. And I'll join that one to that one. And I'll just get rid of those things. Yeah. So with two movements really, which is excluding that one and then trimming this body here to that one, what I've done is effectively modeled a full set of coin slots. Now I've done that at a good pace. I know that I've done that at a good pace, but actually there is nobody in this room that couldn't do that. Yes, you could, Doug. Yes, you could, Doug. We've got 34 minutes now. I mean, literally, all we're doing is pulling a blueprint in, making it the right size, and then drawing profiles out and chopping stuff up. That's all it is. So I go back to the fact there's nobody in this room that can't model coin slots. With the blueprint. Yeah, if you've got blueprint, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and to be fair, if I was modeling off the blueprint, what I'd probably do is just use these as reference. I would still draw the lines to the exact scale. I've just shown you that you can draw around the blueprints as a quick sketch. You could print that out and use it on a droid because you're going to be kind of about within 0.3 or 0.4 of a mil out. It's still going to be accurate, it's still going to be usable. But there's nothing mysterious about this kind of stuff. And then once you've got that, particular coin slots, if you save as mesh, you kick it out as an STL, throw it on your printer, and you've got your coin slots. So whilst I know that doing whole bodies 3D printed droids and that is quite a technical task, creating things like washers, creating small parts, modifying the stuff like Doug said around these is stuff we can do, and you can learn it fairly quickly just by learning sketches and extrusions. It's not got all the kind of big, horrible, nasty tech stuff on there. Tomorrow, I'm going to do the Mark IV modeling madness. So I'll go into the real deep stuff of all of the design elements of Mark IV and all of the complex stuff. But what we really wanted to cover today was just the real basics to get people going and get people modeling. So,
if I could add, when I did the warp core base plate, I started with a circle. I knew what I needed. I wanted to get it around to get out of the top of the dome, right? And so I discovered that it was based off of a 100 millimeter circle in the center. And so everything on the base plate is outside of that 100 millimeter circle. And that's actually the 100 millimeters is the diameter of the top dome circle, the panel. That's it. So once you're outside that, you can break down all the different shapes all through Sketch. And it was all on that one plane. And then we started extruding, and then I started adding holes around it and everything. And so it's but yeah, there are some great videos on that. And the things that Michael's done on YouTube with his videos are fantastic. And you can do so many things with your 3D printer. During COVID, we moved in a new house right before COVID and had a cat, and he had a little cat flag mount, or a feather, right? It was a feather, fishing feather, for a cat toy. And I made a little flag post for it out of a rectangle and a tube that I made and screwed it to the cat's house on there, because I was like, what can I do with this thing? And I was looking around for silly things. And then you realize, oh gosh, these can be really practical, like the gutter mount that Michael did. So, but it's all on Fusion, and it's a free download that you can get, and you can use the software, and it'll unlock your 3D printer. You'll be doing all kinds of crazy stuff that you're like, gosh, I could use this weird thing, and you can just go make it. On there. This all starts with a circle, a square, and a line.
Okay, so I think we're going to open up to any questions. Anything? Is anybody confused about what we've done, or is there any element of it that just want to go over it again, or any questions whatsoever? I'm quite happy to. Yep.
It seems like one common problem on the droids is that the tooth gear doesn't always line up with the Lazy Susan, depending on what you get. And so when you post about that problem, invariably, where you get a lot of comments that say, just use offset, and it'll fix it. So I guess I think you used offset on the gutter.
Yeah.
How does that apply to the ring?
Brilliant. It's a brilliant question, actually. So with so if we've got got a Lazy Susan. What I'm going to do, let me model it. Let me model a quick. Is it 450, isn't it? So we've got 450 with Lazy Susan. The problem with Lazy Susans is that the dimensions and the specs of Lazy Susans vary quite a lot. So this particular one I'll do at 835. So if you measure your Lazy Susan, and it's 800 whatever, it's 385 mil, and your ring, and that's why I publish most of the Fusion files. You can either measure the ring in Fusion, or you can physically measure the ring on a tape measure. It doesn't matter which. But if the original design is 365, and I'm making this up, but I'll just kind of do a quick demo. So imagine that's in a ring. Imagine your gears are all attached to the back of it. The bit that you're looking at is that your Lazy Susan is 385 millimeters in diameter. The one that we're printing is 365. So if you print that, you're going to end up with this gap. It's going to move. When they say you've got you can just pull it. All that means is you grab hold of that wall there, and you can do that in Fusion. If you right click on it, you've got press and pull. You press and pull will give you a little arrow, and literally you can pull it out in that way. So in this case, what it's doing is it's adding to the existing the existing diameter. You could either sketch something in there so you could see how big your Fusion, how big your actual Lazy Susan was, or you could measure the diameter and pull it out by 6 mil. So what you end up getting is something that is closer to the one that you've actually bought. What I probably need to something I've been kind of meaning to do, particularly around the Lazy Susans, is just do a dummy's guide to it, as in grab your Lazy Susan, measure the diameter of it, load the CAD of the rings, And I can specify what those are, and then literally all you're doing is adding the difference between the two and pull it on. So that's quick and easy. The other way you could do is just print out a load of 3mm, 4mm spacers, depending what the gaps are, and put them around. But to be honest, I'd probably just pull that one out there. Any more questions? Yep. Okay, so in a blank space, you've got insert. You can't open a mesh directly. What you do is click insert and insert mesh. Okay. When you do that, it lets you browse your computer to see where it is. So I just browsed these ones that I got from Douglas's site. Was it Power Cells, Douglas?
Oh, well, either one. You can pull anything you want.
Yeah. So in these, you can select whichever STL you want. Click OK. Click OK, and that's now brought in your mesh. And you can see it's a mesh because it's got that yellow meshy symbol there, Jeff. Yeah. And then if you highlight on that and you click on modify, in the mesh, modify and convert, that will convert that mesh to a facelet body. So now that means I can sketch on these surfaces. The only thing I don't like about this is it still maintains all of the triangles. So it's still not a designed object. But it's a solid. Yeah. In the other, so yeah. So what I did. So where are we? There we go. That's one thing you can do. Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing you can do. So you can click on these little triangles and hit delete button, and you can start to tidy it up that way. So I think is what you're saying, but it doesn't always work, and it is quite tedious. Yeah. So what I did with that is once it's a body, I then wanted to re-extrude it so that it was clean. So the way I did that is I went into sketch mode, again, press L and click a space. And within there, you've got project, and I can project this whole shape as a single sketch. So I'm using bodies as a select filter, click on that, click OK. And what that does is it draws a sketch that traces that object. And so then I can now extrude that by 3mm, and I'll get something that's got a clean face. So just to be clear on that, if I wanted to do it with this particular body, what I'd probably do is I'd probably project it on that face and pull that out, pull it that way. Yeah. So if I went, we'll quickly do that. So I went this way, draw, create, project, body, click OK. What that will give me then is that's a nice clean sketch that I can then, if I wanted to, extrude, do symmetry, and I'll do it to there. There we go. There's a new body. So now if I get rid of the one that was the one that I converted, this is a new one that I just modeled, and then it is really clean. I've not found any. The software that's within Fusion to convert meshes back to solid bodies is not brilliant. It's not perfect. It can kind of get you there. Personally, what I end up doing really is then just end up remodeling it the quickest way that I can do. Yeah, there is a. To be honest, I don't, because I do most of my own design stuff. I don't pull meshes in and try to convert. There's another conversion on mesh, I think, that you do pay for, but I've never tested it. Even on the paid version. You pay for it. So it's where is it? Modify. I was looking at it before. Convert mesh. So in there you've got organic, and this converts organically shaped meshes to solid surface T-spline, and it's a 14-day extension as a trial. So I've not tested that. So there are some additional conversion ones, but they're still a little bit iffy, I think, on how they do it. So I end up remodeling it, to be honest. Cool.
Any other questions? All right. Well, anything you want to add, Michael?
Thank you.
No? Thank you. All right, so somebody make a life form scanner now. That's what all this was for. Somebody else to make the life form scanner.
Thank you all very much. This concludes the stuff. Next is our dinner break and then show and tell at 8 p.m.